Okay, and now it's time for another installment of what has fast become the most popular segment here on the channel, Ring IQ Hate Mail! Jerry Soriano's back, making more red herring arguments and generally arguing like a petulant child, less concerned with the facts and more concerned with his feelings. He didn't like my video about David Benavidez avoiding the Jai Opetaia fight.
But he is avoiding that fight.
He said, so Dimitri Bivol wants Canelo or Benavidez. Let me guess, which will pay him more so he can continue to duck Benavidez?
Whatever makes you feel real, Jerry.
Didn't you say that Benavidez was scared of Morrell, Bivol, Better Beef? He would lose to Zurdo, and now he doesn't want to fight Jai Opetaia?
Well, he doesn't want to fight Jai Opetaia.
The guy he just stepped to in person and told him to his face, just trying to keep up with all the narratives, watching the slow train wreck is pure entertainment. Keep up the good work, amigo.
What's he talking about a train wreck? The train hasn't even left the station.
This entire paragraph is intended to serve as a distraction so that Jerry doesn't have to address the point that I originally made, that neither David Benavidez or his father can use a Bivol fight or a Better Beef fight as a reason not to fight Jai, because David isn't about to fight them.
He isn't.
What he wants me and you to do is lose sight of that by making all of these separate arguments about this guy and about that guy, when you can't say David is fighting Dimitri next or even after next, because Dimitri is fighting Michael Eifert, and after Michael, he's fighting Artur. So how could he be the reason that you're not fighting Jai? He's not. And what else Jerry doesn't want to address is the excuses I identified from Jose, who tried to say that Jai doesn't have enough marquee value, and nobody really knows him, but nobody really knew Demetrius Andrade. Nobody really knew. When was Demetrius Andrade ever a big draw?
David Morrell.
When was David Morrell ever a big draw? That you're using that against Jai Opetaia?
Because enough
People don't know him. You're treating this like it's a money thing when we all know it's not. We all know who's behind Zuffa Boxing. The same Turkey El Al Sheikh that paid David Benavidez for his last fight with Anthony Yard is the same one who would pay him for Jai Opetaia.
That's stupid.
In truth, for all the time that Jerry took out to write this long-winded paragraph of red herrings, he didn't address anything I said in the video because he can't. You've taken enough time out to fight guys that were not reigning world champions. Guys who weren't that well known. Guys who aren't big draws. You've taken enough time out to fight guys like that there's no good reason you shouldn't be able to fight a guy like this.
This guy argues like a Democrat.
A fucking leftist. More concerned with his feelings instead of the facts. The fact is, Dimitri's not going to be David's next fight after Zurdo, and neither is Artur. So how could that be the reason you don't fight Jai? And what you want me to do is waste 6 or 7 minutes defending Dimitri Bivol against your accusations and taking a stroll down memory lane, doing everything but addressing what I originally told you. Dimitri's not going to be David's next fight after Zurdo, and neither is Artur. So how could that be the reason you don't fight Jai? Jerry doesn't want to address the question, doesn't want to address the facts of the matter, instead hoping that I'll focus on his feelings.
Calls it narratives, he calls it a train wreck, but he's the one crashing out.
Yeah, he's the one pretending that everybody's so scared of David and they're all avoiding David, while he's the one yo-yoing in weight. If I'm to believe that he's now going to move up to cruiser to then drop back down to light heavy immediately afterwards, he could have stayed put and fought Artur. For doing it later, you could have been doing that now.
While you wait for Dimitri?
Artur said he wanted to fight you, and we all know Turkey would have paid for it for what you're doing. Moving up for Zurdo, which I said he was going to do close to 2 years ago while you were trying to convince the world that he was going to do this to Dimitri or this to Artur. I told you, neither of those fights are going to happen, and the one that will... And did either of those fights happen? The way that Jerry's patting himself on the back, you would have thought he was right about something, when the only thing that happened is what I said was going to happen. David's not going to be at light heavyweight very long. After a short while, he'll move up and he'll pursue his old sparring partner. He'll pursue Zurdo, because that is a safer fight, and for all this chatter here and now, I don't actually know that he's going to drop back down to 175. I wouldn't bet on it. I don't even know that he's going to fight again this calendar year. I would be surprised if he does, but if he does, it's not going to be against Dimitri, and it's not going to be against Artur, so how could that be the reason you're not fighting Jai?
It can't. That's just an excuse.
It's just an excuse from Team Benavidez to get out of a fight with a fighter that will be readily available to fight. in the not-so-distant future.
It's just an excuse.
One that Jerry Soriano is angry, I don't accept. Jerry, when the fuck have you been right about anything that you've said so far?
David right now is literally doing what I told you he was gonna do. Men's super middleweight news, Edgar Berlanga pushes Chris Eubank Jr. fight talk as London rumors grow. Edgar Berlanga has continued to keep talk of a fight alive with Chris Eubank Jr. on social media, keeping the matchup in the spotlight despite no official deal being confirmed. The super middleweight contender has repeatedly posted about the potential clash, including suggestions that it could land in London later this year. Berlanga's activity has led some fans to believe talks may be further along behind the scenes than has been publicly acknowledged. So far, neither side has announced an agreement. Promoters and broadcasters have yet to formally confirm anything, leaving the situation in limbo despite Berlanga's persistent teasing of the fight online.
Both fighters are coming off a loss. Edgar's coming off that knockout loss to Hamza Shiraz. Chris is coming off that loss to Conor Ben in what was their rematch.
My problem with the fight, my question I should say, is who's supposed to be paying for this? Because we know Chris is going to want a lot of money for a fight like that, and so is Edgar. Thus, it's going to take somebody with a lot of money to put it together. Who's got a lot of money?
Turkey's got a lot of money.
So behind the scenes, is Turkey El Sheikh supposed to be the financier for this? Reports earlier this year indicated discussions had taken place over a possible bout, although a disagreement over the weight limit appeared to be one of the sticking points. Eubank Jr. was said to favor a catch weight closer to 164, while Berlanga preferred the full 168 super middleweight limit. That leaves the fight in a strange position. It is being discussed heavily online, but there is still no official confirmation.
Why does Chris Eubank Jr. want the fight at 164 when he's fought at a full 168?
For all of the token pearl clutching and violin playing we saw in the Conor Ben fight, because Chris Eubank Jr. struggled so much to get down there.
He's gonna catch weight a guy now.
All the bleeding hearts so worried about Chris Eubank Jr. being weight drained. What do you think he's trying to do to Edgar by putting a catch weight on him? The matchup could arrive at a good time for both fighters, if it happens.
Yeah, if Edgar lets himself be weight drained.
For Eubank Jr., it would offer the chance to move back up in weight and get comfortable again at super middle after two hard slogs to make 160 for his bouts with Conor Ben, both of which came with an added rehydration clause. If Eubank looks good against the former Canelo opponent, it could push him back towards the top of the Mexican star's list of possible rivals, something World Boxing News reported first as a potential route several years ago. Berlanga has reasons of his own to want the fight. The Brooklyn-born fighter burst onto the scene with 16 straight first-round knockouts, but he still needs to rediscover the form that made him a star after some poor outings and a bad showing against Hamza Shiraz, another possible future opponent for Eubank Jr. Facing Eubank, who's shown frailties that could give Berlanga confidence, could be the ideal window for the quote-unquote chosen one outside of the United States until something is signed and announced. The potential clash remains one of those modern boxing stories being talked into existence online before the official side catches up.
Not sure, but I think that Chris is still promoted by Ben Shalom in Boxer, whereas Edgar, he's still a free agent.
No money behind that guy.
Not at the moment. He's another one of Keith Connolly's fighters who decided to forego re-signing to Matchroom to take his chances in the open market, being a free agent.
Him, Richardson Hitchens.
His first and only fight as a free agent was the Hamza Shiraz fight where he was violently knocked out. Though him being a free agent and Chris Eubank Jr. having little more than Ben Shalom in his corner, it's hard to imagine that Ben Shalom by himself would be the financier that puts this fight together. And where? On BBC?
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I'm not sure it will materialize, but I think the only way that it can is if Turkey El Sheikh puts it together, like he put together Usyk versus Verhoeven.
That was unexpected.
Maybe he's the one who will put this together. I think He's the only one who can, but does he want to? Neither Chris Eubank Jr. or Edgar Berlanga ever proved to be world-level fighters, world-class operators. So if there is a fight between them, I don't actually know who wins. Edgar is bigger, and he is younger, though does he actually represent a great enough value for Chris Eubank Jr. that he would take that fight on?
I don't know.
It's a fight you would have to do in the United Kingdom since Edgar Berlanga has next to no marquee value in the United States. All the money in it would be coming from the Brits.
If there is any money in it.
And what about the catch weight? I hardly think a big boy like Edgar Berlanga would adhere to a 164-pound catch weight. So if the reports ring true and Chris Eubank Jr. sticks to that, this fight doesn't happen. Mulling over who might win such a fight all depends under what circumstances and what auspices it happens, if it even happens. Chris is a more experienced fighter than Edgar Berlanga.
Experienced in the sense that he's been around longer.
Though it's not clear, because Chris Eubank Jr., while more experienced, is getting long in the tooth, though at the same time, Edgar's never really been any good.
It's not changing the model. It's the same model.
Looking to change that model. And Dana White, after the last Zuffa 4 show, got on there and was asked about, signing other stars. And Dana said, unabashedly, we're signing everybody. And, then they were asking about guys like Shakur Stevenson, and now we're seeing the reach out for AJ. What is this push going to be, and how realistic is it that these guys are going to start getting big stars, and what will that do to the sport?
I think they're going to make a push for it. Of course, if you have the bankroll to make a big push and you have the know-how of how to make a big push, I think.
Yeah, but do you need the know-how if you have the bankroll?
Not necessarily, and they've shown, but I think by paying what they paid for Ben, they don't necessarily have the know-how.
Exactly
but like we have talked about before, this is also a trial and error thing. I think there's certain things they're gonna have to adjust. We'll see.
But do they need it? Do they need an AJ to make it really whoa? Because listen, we had the Opatai, and people, guys like us were like, wow. Johnny, whoever on the street doesn't hear about Opatai getting signed by Zuffa and go, holy cow. They're like, oh, cool. That guy looks cool. He's a good knockout guy. Us, it's a big deal. Not a big deal for them. And now Ben made a lot more splash, more because it was the money involved than anything. And we're even the UFC fighters are now looking at this like, how is this guy making the money? So that one broke more across the board. But Ben's not that big of a star in terms of the kind of guys like an AJ, even like a Shakur Stevenson, especially over here.
Question being posed is, how many more high-profile signings does Zuffa have to make before they can gain some inroads in the boxing space? 2 more high-profile signings they've made have both involved international fighters, not necessarily based out of the United States. Jai Opatai is from Australia. Connor's from the UK.
This ain't really gonna move the needle with the Americans.
Connor's from the UK, and so is Anthony Joshua. You managed to get Connor, but you didn't get Anthony. What that tells me is you want to do shows in the United Kingdom. You're trying to.
Well, of course they are. They just signed a Sky Sports deal.
Kakache versus Dickens, set to go down this Saturday, is reported to be a sellout. So is the Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois fight that Ring Magazine told us was struggling to sell.
Both are promoted by Queensberry. And this is what Zuffa Boxing is up against. The know-how of veteran promoters.
How many times have I told you that know-how matters a great deal once the dust settles and the situation more or less stabilizes? It may not come down to who's got the bigger war chest. It may come down to know-how, who knows their audience, who really knows how to promote boxing.
You're kicking out $15 million to a Conor Ben? That does not communicate know-how.
Communicates that you've got a generous benefactor with a lot of money, and that's nice, but that doesn't solve all the problems that will arise when you try to go head-to-head with the other promoters, because you still haven't. You're doing shows on a Sunday, strategically placed on a Sunday as to not have to go head-to-head with the latest Matchroom show, Queensberry, Top Rank, all of which Dana White has taken shots at.
Golden Boy.
PBC. You haven't really had to compete with them yet, and based on what you have so far, Jai Opatai, Conor Ben. And you tried to get Anthony, but is that the best you can do? Is that the best you've got? Trying to poach fighters that other promoters built because you don't know how to build them yourself.
But this one's different than the Ben fight, because AJ is going to make money no matter what. He's already been a champion. He can step into these big fights. The fight with Tyson Fury a few months ago was a foregone conclusion after he starches Paul. we're looking like, oh, this fight's definitely going to happen now.
Yeah,
Tyson's
his friends
but then he has obviously a tragedy, so this kind of gets put on the back burner. But regardless, AJ steps in the ring. He can step right into a Netflix fight with promoted by Eddie Hearn. He can make a ton of money. Not the same talk for Ben. Ben's not going to find a $15 million fight.
Yeah, but is Ben even there without Eddie Hearn?
But that's my
Ben
point.
Even where he's at? There's still a level of where would this guy be anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
he's
exactly
not that good.
Like you said, what this business is. This is a very cutthroat business, and
yes.
if you don't have that kind of, I'm just saying.
But what I'm saying is, regardless, there is still a side that you say, okay, he's not going to find that money. AJ would find this money anyway because the Fury fight would happen.
And he's also got a cachet.
Ben is not going to find that. Yeah.
AJ's already got a cachet. He's got a ton of money already.
Yeah, Ben is not going to find this money otherwise. But Ben wouldn't even get the phone call had he not been with Eddie being moved the way he's been moved so perfectly on the way up. I mean, this guy failed the drug test.
Same question.
This guy failed the drug test, which no matter what the facts are, the whole world feels that Ben was guilty in that drug test. The entire world, So no matter what they say publicly, you said talking privately. I've yet to meet somebody privately within boxing that doesn't think Ben actually was dirty. With no matter how much Eddie defended him. So Eddie gets credit for defending him in that way because he defended him vehemently to the point where it got overturned.
No,
you know what I'm
100% understand. No one is questioning how much Eddie has done and bent over backwards and it really shouldered a lot of Ben's career. But it goes back to my same point. If you're never going to make that money and that money comes in front of you, do you see how it's like when does the loyalty bite you to the point where that money, man?
It's a salient point for former champion Chris Algieri that maybe Anthony Joshua can afford to stay loyal to Matchroom a lot more than Conor Ben can.
Because Anthony Joshua is going to make money regardless.
Already having been a unified champion more than once and competed at the highest level of his division, he's shown a higher ceiling than Conor Ben, but can Conor Ben actually afford to be so virtuous?
Perhaps not.
Though taking the money was never my issue with Conor Ben. It was how he went about it that he was deceitful.
He could have been up front. He could have told Eddie, these guys want to give me a boatload of cash. I think that Conor Ben...
He might end up being Zuffa's inaugural welterweight champion. I could see that because they don't do the juniors and the supers. They don't have a junior middleweight division. So he may end up being Zuffa's inaugural welterweight champion, but is that it? Is that the best you can do? Poach Conor Ben and give him a belt that you made up.
A belt that most boxing fans vehemently reject as a legitimate world title.
And this is what I meant when I said that after the dust settles and people calm down, it may all boil down to know-how a few weeks, few months, few years down the line in spite of all the money that Zuffa's got behind him.
If all you know how to do is overpay fighters so that they'll fight under your banner instead of somebody else's, that's not a good long-term strategy. Ben Shalom and Boxer tried that.
They got a couple of Matchroom's boys to cross over, a couple of their girls too, but in the end, it didn't matter.
We know it's not going to be the same thing with Zuffa.
Zuffa does have more money behind them than Boxer did, and better and more capable, business-savvy people. Though if all you're gonna do is throw money at somebody else's fighters so that they'll come fight for you, what that really accents is your lack of know-how.